All right, and we're back. Now, question number 4. Mike, why does Citizen Warrior Foundation believe community organization and relationship building is so important via emergent tech in decreasing meaningless suffering? Well, let me explain. So, in any meaningful enterprise, it requires people coming together. In a meaningful enterprise, it requires creating what we can call a sacred, in a secular sense, if you'd like, a transcendent hierarchy of values. And at the top, let's call it the truth, or let's call it mitigating meaningless suffering, or let's say implicitly that the truth will mitigate meaningless suffering. And let's say the best instrument in our belief is various types of technologies that are coming out via emergent tech. There's also a lot of threats. So why do you have an exempt purpose to organize people and build relationships? Well, a few reasons. One, capital. So without capital, you cannot incorporate a foundation, for example. Okay? So when you have a foundation, you need a lawyer. You need to make sure that you're compliant. You need to make sure that you have marketing. You need to make sure that you have a whole bunch of things. That all costs money. So you need capital. So if you're without capital, what happens is you move at a snail's pace and the quality of whatever it is you put out to the public is like, meh, not as good as it could be, right? Now, what happens when you are, let's say, pursuing truth, and then some event happens, like what happened with Celsius Network, which we'll be talking about, where effectively they steal your life savings, which in effect happened to myself and in part my brother, which was, let's say, 2/3 the impetus behind us launching Citizen Warrior Foundation at the date that we have. As an aside, and then we'll come right back to the importance of community organization and relationship building, never trust a foundation or a charity where the founder is not driven, at least in part, by self-interest, because human motivation is driven first and foremost by helping the self. And now the virtues on top of our biological underpinnings to move forward and accumulate resources to excel in the dominance hierarchy, gain access to more resources and meeting opportunities, one would say, right, is to protect the self. So, yes, we launched because we saw a grave injustice, we got pissed because they took all our crap, and we wanted to get our crap back. But more than that, we wanted to get everyone's crap back, right? Because they're digital assets, some which is crap, some which is awesome, okay? And we can talk about that later, and we most certainly will, was taken from them. And we'll explain exactly how, who we believe is liable, and how no one's discussing the real crux of the matter and how interesting that is to us. So anyway, let's go back to the community organization, relationship building, because you can read about this soon, somewhere else. So we need to forge relationships so that we can overcome regulatory, legal, and other capital-intensive boundaries. So those people who are driven by, let's say, 2/3 will to virtue, 1/3 will to power, which is a fantastic balance of motivation, can come together without the perversion of whatever it is they want to introduce to the market or whatever cause they want to pursue, right? And present it in that way. Without, let me just take a wild example, without ESG causing, let's say, the most popular blockchain outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum, from kowtowing from proof of work, which is decentralized, democratized, of the people, for the people, to become proof of stake, which is incredibly centralized or more centralized, and in effect, a technocracy, which is why we're partnering with people who are going to eat Ethereum alive within the coming years, and we can't wait to introduce you to them, because when somebody perverts their own innovation because they're too afraid to stand up for it, then that's not an individual of conviction. Do you want to follow someone with a product that oversees its, let's say, direction who has no conviction, who has no balls, who has no strength to stand up to a few bureaucrats to say, no, we're gonna stay proof of work because that's blockchain ethos and you can suck on a pair of eggs. Ethereum didn't do that. So anyway, community organization, relationship building is so that we can bring together intellectual capital, human capital, and financial capital so that we can educate and provide goods and services through research and development and our partnerships and affiliations relative to emerging tech to you, the people, to mitigate meaningless suffering by pulling the nerd out of the information and shoving the understandable to the common person goodness into your brain holes. You are welcome, and on to the next question.